Hi everybody, it's Christina from Pretty Distressed. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be taking this old dusty dresser that was actually destined for the dumpster, and I'm going to be giving it a makeover. I'm going to be using Dixie Belle products. I'm going to be using their paint, their stain, and their top coats today. So if you want to see how I got this look, just keep watching. If you are new here, I am a furniture painter and refinisher, and I am on here every week making over different pieces of furniture or talking about furniture paints. So if you'd like to learn more about that, please consider subscribing before you leave. And also check me out on Instagram because I'm always on stories doing behind the scenes of what I'm working on. So you'll get a sneak peek of what I'm working on before it goes live here on YouTube. Today's video is sponsored by Dixie Belle Paint Company. I'm going to be trying out a lot of their products that I haven't used before for the first time. They actually just reformulated their no pain gel stain. That is so hard to say. And I'm going to be talking to you about that new formula and how it performs, and Dixie Belle's Gator Hide on top, which is their most protective top coat. And I'm going to be doing a 2-color finish on the base and finishing it off with one of their natural waxes. So lots of new products for me today, and I'm actually working with color. So I'm excited to show this one to you. So let me zoom you in and we will get started. Some of you who have been here a while might recognize this piece. It's the piece that I use to demonstrate how you strip chipping veneer off a piece. So I'll link that video up above if you want to watch it. But I'm finally making this guy over. It's been a while that it's been sitting in the garage. We're just reinforcing it here a little bit to make it a little sturdier. It was a little loose, so my husband helped me do that. I got this piece for free from a picker who goes into houses and gets stuff out for estate sales, and he actually, no place would take this. Salvation Army wouldn't take this, but I was like, let me try to give it new life before you throw it out. So it was really dusty and dirty. So I am using White Lightning today, which is one of Dixie Belle's cleaning products. I love this. It works really well to clean your piece off. So I'm just mixing this up with some warm water. I'm going to rub it all over my piece to get the gunk and dirt off and get it nice and clean before I apply my paint. And after you rub it with, I use a scrubby sponge just because that helps get extra, bits off of it. You're just going to rinse it with some clean water and let it dry, or wipe it down with a towel before you paint. And you might be asking, Christina, why is there a big towel on top of your piece? Well, it's actually a damp towel that I placed on top to get an extra coating of veneer off. This actually had another coat of veneer that started chipping once I got the first one off. So I put this damp towel on here, and you can see how the water's kind of absorbing into there. It's not ready yet to be stripped, so I'm going to put that back on. And I'm actually going to take my hardware off and just start painting a little bit while I'm trying to get that veneer to soften up just a little bit more. I'm saving the hardware today because I wasn't sure if I was going to reuse it or not. So I always just put it in a baggie and set it aside. I never throw hardware away because you never know when you might use it on a different piece. And I just like to keep it all together in case I'm going to put it back on. But I'm going to start out today with Dixie Belle's Dried Sage and their mini synthetic brush. This is a very beautiful neutral khaki color. In fact, I just used this to make a wash to create a stain for my daughter's canopy bed that we built. This is Dixie Belle's mineral chalk paint. So it's very similar to the furniture paints you see me paint on here. You don't have to prime or sand before you apply this paint. It just goes right on. I really enjoy working with Dixie Belle's synthetic brushes because it gives you a little bit of a smoother look. Oh, but you do sometimes still get shedding. You get shedding with all brushes, you guys. You just have to pick it out, smooth it over. It's not a big deal. But I really like working with these brushes because it gives you a little bit of a smoother look to your furniture. It's not really textured. I am going to distress this up a bit when I'm done just because of the shape that the piece is in. But I am going with the grain and keeping my brush strokes all going in one direction just because I want a little bit of a smoother finish on here, and this brush is really helping me achieve that look. I will link all the products that I'm using in today's project down below in the description box, so it'll be easy for you to find everything that I'm using today. I really love Dixie Belle because they truly are a one-stop shop. I'm going to be using paint today, top coats. You already saw me use the cleaner. I'm going to be using stain and different applicators and brushes, and everything I'm using you can get on Dixie Belle's website. A lot of times when I'm doing like a two-tone project like this, there's not a lot of paint companies that make stain. So it's really cool to be able to know that like all these products were made to formulate together. You can just buy it, do shipping for one set of products, and you don't have to go from store to store to get them. So that's a really positive thing about working with Dixie Belle products. Okay, let's hop back over to my veneer. As you can see, more of that water has absorbed into that top veneer coat. So I have grabbed my hammer and a little paint scraper, and I am just gonna peel this back. If you guys want more information on how to do this, like I said, I have that video on removing the first coat of veneer that was on here. So I will put that down in the description box in case you wanna watch that video. Please, 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 if you're doing this, wear gloves, wear eye protection, because I don't want anything flying in your eyes and I don't want you poking your fingers with splinters. So this is pretty typical of an old piece. Once you strip this off, these are actually planks that somebody put together and then put a nicer wood on top. I love this plank look. So I'm just sanding it down with my orbital sander to get any of those remaining residual bits off the top. And I'm gonna try to stain this top because it looks really rustic and shabby, and I think it's gonna go perfect with the painted base that I'm doing. So I taped off the base with my 3M painter's plastic in one just to protect it since I already started painting it, and I have some paint stripper in this little metal bowl, and I'm just painting it on the edge here where I still have varnish because I need to remove that before I can move forward with stain. So I'm just putting that paint stripper on there. I'm gonna let that set for about 30 minutes and then I'm gonna come back and scrape it off. When you're working with this stuff, definitely use gloves, definitely use a mask or work outside in a really ventilated area because these chemicals are really strong to strip this varnish, but it is the easiest way to get it off. After I go in with the scraper, I like to grab some steel wool like this, a really coarse one that's oil-free, and I put a little bit of that paint stripper in there, and it helps you just get in those edges and corners on a side like this to get that residual varnish off. And then I take a shop towel and dunk it in a little bit of mineral spirits and just wipe it back to make sure that the surface is clean. I let that dry and then I come back in and just sand any spots that I've missed that has a little bit of stubborn stain on there just to prep it and make it look like the rest of the top. I'm finally ready to stain this top. So I'm gonna grab a few items to protect myself since this is an oil-based product. I am going to use my vapor respirator. I'm gonna use my eye protection. I'm gonna be applying it with the Dixie Belle applicator pad today, and I have my No Pain Gel Stain in Pickling White. You will also need a pair of gloves to protect your hands. And here I am just taking a tack cloth and wiping down the top to make sure that I have a dust-free surface to start with. And very simple, I'm just opening up the stain. You can see it's very thick. This is a new formula. It's very pigmented. I'm just taking that applicator sponge. I'm gonna work in like a 2 to 3 foot section and just get this on really well. I am applying with the grain, which means you can see those lines that are horizontally moving across the top. So I'm just following those and going in a horizontal motion and getting all this stain on here. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, this is a new formula and they came out with a lot of new colors, and I just really love the way this is performing. It's more pigmented and it's really easy to use. So once you get this on, you are going to wipe back the excess. So I have a bunch of shop towels up in the corners. You can see I like using these to kind of pull back my stain. It's my favorite thing to use, and then you can just throw them away once they dry out. But you can see it's taking off the excess of that stain and just leaving a beautiful whitewashed pickling effect. And I'm just gonna do that same thing over the whole table, working in those 2 to 3 foot sections. And I have a bunch of those shop towels folded up and ready to go. You don't wanna let this sit on there too long. You just really wanna wipe it on and then wipe it back right away. Because of the way this is formulated and how pigmented it is, you're probably only gonna need 1 coat to achieve the color you want. At this point in the project, I decided I wanted to add a little bit more color to this piece. So I am going to be using sea glass to kind of do a 2-toned finish. But I did notice this thing that I wanted to show you. I had some bleed through on my first coat, and a way to alleviate this is grab a can of Dixie Belle Boss. This blocks odors and stains and stops bleed through. So I just shook this up really well, grabbed a chip brush, and I'm just gonna paint this on the entire drawer just to make the application even when I go put on my second coat of paint. It's gonna stop that bleed through. Sometimes it just happens when there's some type of oil under the surface that you can't see even though I cleaned the piece. So it is really nice to always have a can of Boss on hand in case you see bleed through like this. So right now I am just painting on that sea glass color. I just felt like the top, once I did it, was too close a match to the dried sage color. And even though the dried sage is beautiful, I just thought this piece needed a little something. And this sea glass color is super beautiful. So I'm just putting on this coat exactly the same way that I put on my first one. And then when we go to distress it, it's going to give this two-toned effect. When you sand it and distress it back a little bit, you're going to see some of that dried sage color underneath, and it's going to be really pretty. I typically take my drawers out when I'm painting, but I've seen a lot of people that don't. So this time I just tried to keep them in and see how that went. I am ready to top coat my stained top. So I'm going to be using Dixie Belle's Gator Hide and their blue applicator sponge that is specifically for this top coat. This is my first time using this top coat. I have got a lot of requests to try it because this is their most durable top coat. It is waterproof and you can use it inside or outside. So a lot of people are interested in this one. The most important thing to know, because this is a water-based top coat and I'm putting it over an oil-based stain, you have to wait until this stain is completely dry to put on the top coat. So I let this sit for 72 hours. I know that seems like a long time, but when you're moving between oil-based and water-based products, that oil really has to be dry or the top coat is not going to work. So this is just my first coat. I'm going to go into more detail about how to actually put this on when I show you guys the second coat, because I watched a lot of videos in between my first coat and my second coat to give you guys some better tips. My top takeaways from this first coat is you just want to get a little bit of product on there, wipe the excess off the sponge with that side of that paper plate, and you're just going to go back and forth in the same direction and try to not stop. I think that's the number one thing that I did wrong, is I would stop in the middle of strokes, and you really just want to take that stroke from one side all the way to the other without stopping. So just hold tight, because I will give you more tips on the second coat that you can incorporate into your first coat. And since this is a water-based product, you can just wash the sponge out with a little bit of soap and water in between coats. Okay, now I'm going to distress this piece up a little bit. I'm taking a 320 sanding pad. So it's a really fine sanding pad, because I don't want to take this distressing too far. I just want it to be really light because I am going to try to sell this piece. I have my mask on and I have fitted it with my particle filters versus my vapor filters just to protect my lungs. And I'm going to zoom you in so you can see that two color effect. You can really see that dried sage coming out in the spots that I'm distressing. And when I distress, I just go along the edges like this. I go around the edge of the drawers, and I always do the feet and rough those up a little bit. You don't really want to attack any of the flat spots because that won't look as natural. So I try to stick to the edges and the detail when I'm distressing. Once I'm done distressing, I just grab a tack cloth or a soft, clean brush, and I just wipe away any of that dust before I get ready to seal it. To seal my paint off, I'm going to be using Dixie Belle's Big Mama's Butter and using my other applicator pad that I have. This is actually the orange scented one. It smells amazing. So you want to use a lint-free cloth to apply this, or you can use one of these applicators. And since I had a second one in my pack, I am using this to apply it. It's really easy to see where it goes on. A little bit goes a long way. They released this product last summer, so it is a little bit of a newer one. And how it's different from their Best Dang Wax, which you guys have seen me used before and heard me talk about wax on here. This is more of a natural wax. It is oil-based. It's the fastest curing top coat that they have. It actually cures in 7 days. Once I got this wax on, I let it set there for a little bit, and then I would take a lint-free cloth, one of those shop towels, and just wipe it back a bit to remove any of that excess. And at this point, you can actually buff it up a little bit if you want a little bit more sheen. You can use this on painted surfaces like this, but it actually works really well as a conditioner to bring the luster back to old wood. You can also use it on drawers to help them slide a little bit better, but my favorite part is that they have 2 scented versions. I'm using the orange. It smells amazing. There's also one that's like more flower based that's called Suzanne's Garden, but they also have an unscented one if you're not into the fragrance. It will eventually fade, but it is super nice when you're putting it on. Okay, now we're gonna add our second coat of Gator Hide to this top. It has been 2 hours for this to dry, and I'm just taking that same sanding block, that 320 sanding block that I used to distress my piece. I'm lightly sanding this just to buff out any of those streaks that I had, and I also like doing this to give the second coat something to stick to. And before I apply that second coat, I'm just taking a tack cloth and getting rid of any of that dust. Okay, on the second coat is when you're going to want to take your notes. So I learned that you need to dampen your sponge just a little bit before you're applying the Gator Hide. It's just going to help with the application, make it smooth. So here I just get a little bit of product on here. That is too much. So you need to take the edge of the paper plate and kind of scrape it back a little bit. This is more what you want it to look like, and you want to go from side to side without stopping and without lifting your sponge. It's okay to go back and forth like this. You just don't want to stop in the middle because that is going to give you streaks. And I realized you really don't have to keep going back and getting a lot of product. You just want to do really thin layers. You can do up to 3 coats. So just make sure that your layers are thin and really even, and it does really level out as it dries. So don't get too freaked out about seeing streak marks, but you just don't want to go back. It dries so fast. Now that I've done that front section, like I don't want to go back and touch that at all. I just want to move on to the next section. You really don't want to go back and rework it, because that's when you're going to get into getting that streakiness that you don't want to see. Like I told you in between coats, I watched a lot of different videos on working with this Gator Hide since I haven't worked on it with it before. Just like you guys, I need knowledge. I need to learn. I am not perfect. So I will link those videos below that I found on Dixie Belle's website if you guys are interested in seeing a couple more furniture artists working with this top coat. I saved the edges for last just so I could soak up any globs that may have happened when I was doing the top. I noticed once I had everything done and the top coats done that when I pushed my drawers in, you could see a little bit of that stain like on the sides. And like I said, this normally doesn't happen because I take my drawers out, but I was just trying a new technique and I saw that I missed these spots on the side. So I am just taking some paint and dry brushing that just so you don't see it when the drawers are closed. I did decide to get hardware to brighten this piece up a little bit. These little knobs are from Hobby Lobby. They were $3.99 a piece. If you wait every other week, their hardware goes on sale 50% off, but I was in a rush to get this video done for you guys, so I paid full price for them, but $3.99 per pull is not bad at all. I love this design. I think it just brightens up the piece and just makes it look really cute. So here is this dresser before it got this beautiful makeover with all Dixie Belle products. I love the sea glass color, so bright and beautiful. I am obsessed with how this top turned out. That stain just gave it the perfect whitewashed weathered look, and it really brought out those areas where I had scuffed and scraped it up to give it kind of that rustic farmhouse feel. Here is a close-up of how using 2 different colors really creates a beautiful effect when you distress. So I set this up in my little eat-in kitchen area just to show you how cute it would be as like a coffee bar. I think it would also look great in an entryway or in a dining room. Thank you guys for watching this video all the way to the end and joining me for this project today. I hope you learned something new. I hope you get a chance to try some of these products and techniques out. Thanks again to Dixie Belle for sponsoring today's video. I will be back with another project soon, and I'll see you guys next time.